I have today with me Karen Mangia. Welcome, Karen.
Thanks so much. It's great to be here. I mean, it was getting lonely in my home office.
That's exactly what we're going to talk about because the topic that I have today with you is about as a manager and also as an employee, the safety and security in your home office and like online, offline. How do you take care of that as a manager? And you are responsible for you're part of a task force, I should say. That's better, right? For at Salesforce on this topic.
Yes, and the where we've put our focus has evolved over time. If we think back to the beginning of the pandemic when we were all coming into our home offices suddenly, right? And in this state of adrenaline. And our focus at that point was how can we support people and ease that transition, especially in light of, there's a lot to consider. People have a lot of considerations besides their job, keeping themselves and their employees and their family members safe and healthy and well, top of mind. And so, like many organizations, at first we focused our work on that transition, whether that's the stipend for the home office equipment, some guides, for how to be a manager when maybe you're doing that for the first time without being able to see your team or the people you lead in person. Then we evolved to, thinking about programs to really support people's emotional and mental health and well-being, and programs that could extend to our customers and really our entire Ohana. And then from there, what we noticed is the nature of what support and safety look like started to evolve, right? And this isn't just about keeping things like information safe, which is of course important, and we're all still looking at that in a new context. What really matters is, when we step back and think about, the number of organizations, including Salesforce, that talk about trust as one of our core values, safety is an extension of trust.
Hmm.
And people want to have the confidence that their leaders are being thoughtful about the decisions that we're making to keep them safe, and how we handle this period of time will do more to reinforce or, unfortunately, in some organizations, undermine that feeling of trust, how that value shows up to our employees during such a critical time.
You talk about this, and I just have so many questions already. just one paragraph that you're just talking about. Okay, so first let's get back to the first phase, right? So there is this pandemic and there's the lockdown, so people have to start working from home. How does this? And you have 50,000 plus employees worldwide, so I can imagine that's a catastrophe that you're looking at, really a big storm that you're trying to handle. But how does it work? Do people pick up screens and laptops from the office, and what's happening there?
Well, as I think about this and I've had conversations with a number of organizations, what I see as kind of the arc of what happened really for lots of us is phase one was adrenaline, right? We were all fueled with the adrenaline of battling this mysterious unknown illness out on the horizon, and maybe battling it out at the supermarket or store to get supplies, and then also by that adrenaline of whatever it takes to do our jobs well. And so, in that moment, it feels almost like a fire drill, right? I mean, people are exiting buildings very quickly, and you just take what you can and stay safe and get home as quickly as possible. And in fact, I called to mind a story from a senior executive at Palo Alto Networks who leads global support services. And Patty was describing to me literally seeing people going out into the parking lot, carrying kind of the contents of their desk and the monitor. At the same time, they have that crooked head thing with the phone because they're still on customer support calls. They're not wanting to abandon the customer, but it's like, there's a fire, I've got to get out of here. And what happened on the other side is adrenaline wears off. And phase two became the honeymoon is over. And that's where you started hearing about the Zoom fatigue and the meeting fatigue. And people were starting to realize, I mean, I do now have the ownership of being able to wake up in the morning in my pajamas, pull my laptop or mobile device into bed, start doing an email. And at the end of the day, how long should you really go without a shower? I mean, how many days is that? Right? And so I think in that phase, for so many organizations, it's people are less focused on that point of, having that favorite monitor from their desk that they left behind, and more focused on, how am I going to do this? I'm not feeling my best. And what I've noticed now is that we're in phase 3, which is I hear people asking the question, how long is this going to last? And while neither you nor I know the answer to that question, what I hear within that is people asking for and almost seeking permission to make some adjustments to help them live and work in a more sustainable way. And at the organizational level, a number of organizations are stepping back to say, given that this is going on longer than we thought, what do we need to step back and examine about the programs that we need to put in place? Do we need to make some adjustments around our culture or our values, right? Because something that was designed to be temporary is becoming a little bit more permanent. And as we all step back and look at that structure, it's like, how much of a load, can those programs that we put in place bear at this point?
Hmm. Did you, because before you talked about phase 2, where the psychology kind of becomes more difficult, that people feel at home difficulties, the children are there, they're homeschooling the children, people, maybe some managers, they are still in the micromanagement and checking up on them every hour, maybe even. So there's a lot of stuff going on, and you're not sure how long this is going to last, and maybe you get sick, and all this stuff is going on. What did you see at Salesforce about this?
At that point, I saw us doing a couple of things that I thought were incredibly resourceful. First of all, acknowledging from even the most senior leaders and sharing these authentic stories of them saying, I am feeling that way too. Hey, I was realizing I'm not getting enough sleep, or I'm not eating the way that I might have before. I'm not feeling healthy, and here's the adjustments I'm making. And I think that sets the tone of, hey, it's okay that I was at home, eating comfort food and wearing my, athletic clothes to work, when this was going to be, we're home for 6 weeks on a quarantine. And a few months in, I'm starting to realize maybe there is a limit to how much macaroni and cheese a person should eat, and, and still feel good. And so, starting with the leadership team, authentically sharing their own stories and letting life show up. Their kids still come in too, their dog still barks too, and that's okay. The second piece is, we added some additional ways to listen to our employees. What used to be, the once or twice a year kind of the employee pulse survey kind of check-in is now a monthly wellness check-in with our employees. And we're asking people questions about, are you working more hours or having more meetings? Have you taken some time away? Really doing a check-in and asking for ideas. But I think that's so critical is, have you paused to think about how to connect with your employees, especially at scale, more consistently? And then the third piece is, in that phase, we really got purposeful about engaging our employees. I mean, I don't know about you, but what I'm discovering during this period of time is people have some hidden talents and skills that are suddenly incredibly relevant and useful, right? I have a colleague who's really into, audio and lighting design just by happenstance. Well, that's really useful right now because we're all running these little television broadcasts right out of our homes all day long. That's relevant expertise. We have people who are trained at teaching people, guided meditation or, yoga breathing. That's incredibly useful right now. We also just tapped into this concept of a help desk during that period of time. And the help isn't just, I'm having an issue with my laptop or I forgot my password. It's also, I'm a manager and I've never had a difficult performance conversation at a distance. Now I can contact kind of a help center, and someone who's an employee that's kind of been crowdsourced and volunteered that has that expertise is going to help. So what I found is this is a time when people are getting to to show up and lead and contribute in some really new and different ways, and feeling that you're being of service and helpful during this period of time helps with that fatigue. But it also is a tool to create connection between people, to create some interaction that isn't just meeting after meeting, but really bringing people together in a way that they're solving something or making progress. And that feels so different. Now it feels more like you're connecting to a community, and we're finding that really helps as a strategy to combat and navigate some of the isolation that we're all feeling to some degree.
I've read your book about working from home. And I know that you are at Salesforce. Yes, you have the book up right now. At Salesforce, you are responsible for customer and market insights. So there is, and because your next book is about listening up, it's about listening to customers. There's a combination there. On one side, you're connected to the customers, and the other side, you're also very involved with working from home, and that's what I read from your story and also hear from the conversations and the talks that you're giving. What happened? Because were you working before mostly like 100% from the office as well?
So in my case, I did my first ever interview about working from home, believe it or not, in 2002. So I like to say I was working at home before it was coerced or cool. And within that, I thought, okay, I am a pro at working from home. I've done this for so long. It's one of the reasons I was invited to be a part of our task force. What I discovered, though, and upon further review, an important detail that's missing from that story, that's some critical context, is I fly about 200 to 250,000 miles a year. So actually, I think my cubicle is on United Airlines. And like everyone, what I lost in this transition is flexibility and choice. I lost that variety of the change of scenery. Now, for some people, that change of scenery might have been a couple hours a day, one day a week, you worked from the local coffee shop. The reality is, you did have a choice to change your scenery. And so what I noticed within that is, even as long as I've done working from home and, have my own plan in place to make sure I'm not, working in my pajamas, and that I'm, sustaining some healthy routines, rituals, and boundaries, I discovered that I needed to make some adjustments too, in order to show up at my best in this extended period of time when our options are so limited.
And what did you change in your routines for your mental safety?
Yes. So what I was realizing, and I think many people are, is that your laptop is your pantry. And what starts to happen is, when you're at home, you start with these great intentions, right? It's, okay, I've got this water bottle, and when it's empty, I will go downstairs to refill it. And what happens? It's very tempting when you get the water that you see like the salty, crunchy snacks, and you're like, "Ooh, I'll have a little bite of that." Then maybe somebody at your house baked cookies. Maybe it was last night. You see them still on the stove, and you walk by on the way back, with your healthy water, and then you take a little bite. And you start grazing all day long, which isn't a particularly healthy habit. And our home offices, our laptop is our pantry too. And what happens is we get into this mindset of just one more syndrome. I'll do just one more email and then I'll close things down. Just one more PowerPoint slide, just one more, text or tweet or whatever that looks like for you. And suddenly what we find is we're always grazing on work. And so those routines, rituals, and boundaries, a couple of things I've adjusted to stay healthy and well. My strategy is called the 3 M's. Now, the first time I said that, someone thought I was talking about the company that makes the Post-it notes. That is not my strategy to stay well. Mine are music, mindfulness, and movement. But whatever the routines, rituals, and boundaries are that you want to put in place, first of all, you need some. What I've discovered is the ones that work the best create upside. They are more compelling, fun, and engaging to you than continuing to do that one more email or continuing to work. The other piece is they tend to be able to happen in 3 to 5 minutes. This is not an elaborate transition ritual. It doesn't have to take the same amount of time as your commute might have taken in the past. It's something that you can quickly and consistently do in the morning and in the evening that says, I'm going to work, I'm getting into work mode, and now I'm leaving. And as some that I've heard that resonate with me over time, someone described, well, I still take my same bag that I would have packed to take to work. And in the morning, I put things in it like my water bottle, my phone, a snack. I take it to where I work. And at the end of the day, I put things in it because it says to my brain, oh, we're packing our bag, we're leaving work now. And I thought, isn't that simple? I have others that yell funny lines from movies, some, who choose to go outside with their family and take just a quick walk around the block together. And then when they come back in, they do their evening activities. The key is put something in place that you enjoy that you can do consistently for a few minutes each day.
I'm not sure how it is with you right now with when the sun comes up and when it goes down. Right now, it's already getting darker here. So what I find very difficult in this time is because when your working day is over, it's dark. So I'm a runner, so it's kind of more difficult to run in the dark for me, I think for most people. And so I've I've noticed if I take a break during the day and do the run then, it's a lot easier, and I will maintain the rhythm a lot easier. I will go for the run instead of at night and I had my dinner and it's dark and it's raining and I don't want to go out anymore. So skip another day and just another day, another day. So um, is there anything that you did that happened in your company that looks at the safety, the digital safety of how you communicate and take care of files and all this stuff that's important also with Salesforce?
Yes. So something that we started within, the part of Salesforce that I'm in, so kind of our technology, marketing, and product organization. So think about people, who are developers. Think about people who are doing marketing campaigns for a myriad of reasons. People want and need to be able to collaborate in that context, whether it's to create or to knowledge share. I mean, it would be very common, if you were working on one of our products or maybe an upcoming release, that in the past you might have been sitting together in an office and you could just say over the wall or, around the corner, hey, I have a quick question, or I'm stuck. Has anyone seen this before? And quickly get the answer. Well, how do you replicate some of that experience in a distributed work environment? So what we worked through and what we've been working through is thinking about what it is that we need to be effective as distributed teams. And that has several aspects, several pivots to it. One is, what are the tools that we need, right? What is it that enables us to collaborate, to get answers to our questions, to find things quickly and easily? And what we've discovered is, you need some different information organized in different ways than in the past, right? When you didn't have to be maybe 100% or largely reliant as that, for that as a go-to strategy or channel. The second one is revisiting team agreements about communication and how decisions get made. So something that happens, and the reason so many people were sharing with us that they would end up in these back-to-back meetings is because there hadn't been a moment yet or a catalyst to revisit those team agreements of, it used to be we would talk about something in a meeting, then I might walk by your office and say, I was thinking about our conversation, and of the 3 choices we discussed, I think A makes the most sense. Are you good? And the other person says yes. Well, now we've just made a decision and that agreement holds that I'm good. Well, now in this distributed world, does that have to be a meeting every single time? And so what that does is, it's a tool to say, let's revisit the line on ownership. What are you in a greater position to own? How do decisions get made? Our team meeting cadence or communication style that worked when most of us were in the office, maybe not as effective as now. And maybe we need something different. So looking at that aspect of it. The third area is, how do we facilitate and cultivate career development? What does this look like? People still want a path to opportunity. Ambition is not gone because, we're in a new context. Ambition has not been quarantined. Well, what does a career cultivation path look like in this distributed work environment? are there new kinds of training and reskilling that we need to do to help people be successful? So, a series of bodies of work there. And we've gotten really formal about writing down a plan of, kind of our vision for what this experience would be like. What do we value? What are our priorities? How would we measure success? And really inviting a number of people to participate, informing what that looks like to make sure that we're being of service to the organization.
Hmm. So at some point, of course, COVID-19 will not be gone, but will be manageable, and we will probably get back to the office. What do you feel about how much percentage of the people will still work more from home than from the office, going back to the office?
Well, you're bringing up such a great point, which is, at the moment, the idea of going back to the office seems so appealing, right? Because we've had a lack of variety for so long. And what's going to happen, of course, is we'll only be able to go back a little bit at a time. And even in that office experience, there are still going to be lots of video meetings, right? I mean, even at the outset, it doesn't seem that we're going to have, a large influx of big meetings with everybody in the conference room all together, all day long and every day. And so, in that incremental approach, for workers who are working virtually, so we're not talking about, our healthcare workers, people in grocery stores and that sort of thing, but for your traditional office worker, it's looking like this will reshape work to where about half going forward will continue at least full or part-time work from home on the extended horizon.
What I liked about your book is also the various points of view that you talk about, like the kids at home and your work and like the schedules you talked about. And one particular part was about managing people at a distance, of course. And I think you took some data from a research and comments from the research. I forgot who it was, but it was all about trust, right? So trust is an important part because you also mentioned an email that was sent out about that you are being watched now. All your keystrokes are being watched, and all the websites you've been looking at are being watched. So step on it. And that's so contradictory what you really want. You want a manager that is a leader and really wants to help you move forward and trusts you in what you do and in the outcomes. At the same time, of course, you need to find a way to make sure that the people that work for you as a manager, as a leader, do the work that we agreed upon, that give the results. Like the example you talked about with this woman and man and the two children, the honey bee. What's
The honey badger, yes.
Right. So, and she was doing this task and she was done because the answers were in the same email. So, how do you find this this best path for you as a manager, as a leader, to give people a trust and also make sure that they do the things that you both agreed upon?
What you're highlighting is critical to the future of work, which is solving for the trust gap. Leaders will always need to know, what work their teams are doing and what outcomes they're delivering. That's not going to change, regardless of whether work happens in the same physical location together or in a distributed way. And employees are asking the question, how does my manager or leader know how hard I'm working? And what starts to compound in that phenomenon is, in your organization, what your culture is like is amplified right now. If you had a culture of trust in place before, I've largely found that organizations that were operating that way have been able to adapt and find a way forward. If you were the organization that relied on and counted on and mandated people being in the office for certain hours and, doing these check-ins, those are the organizations that are struggling because the basis of that is not trust. The basis of that is if I can't see you, I can't trust you. And that's a struggle. So as I think about, what's critical there and some unintended consequences, right? when you get that email from your employer, or as some have reported to me, they're required to log in 15-minute increments what they're spending their time on and get on a call at the top of the hour every hour with the boss. Those micromanaging behaviors underscore that you don't trust your employees. And it's really difficult to get the best out of someone when you don't trust them. On the middle manager, frontline manager and individual contributor side, what's happening is people are hanging on to tasks that may not need to be done as a tool to try to be more visible and demonstrate this elusive impact and outcomes, right? Like, I own so many things, I'm delivering so much, I'm so valuable, you must keep me here. And in that message is, see me, value me, see me, value me. And what it calls to mind for me, I'll never forget the time when I made a commitment to an executive coach to take my first ever holiday where I would do no work. So this does not mean I'm with my family and I'm sneaking away, to go to the restroom or pay the bill, that I'm quick getting in a couple of emails, right? We've all done this. Or I'm taking the one important phone call, which then becomes two important calls, which becomes some emails, right? We've all done this. And I'll never forget coming back from the holiday. And of course, the expected implication of that is I felt rested and refreshed. The unexpected implication of that decision was what my team said to me when I returned, and I'll never forget this. They said, "We're so glad you trusted us enough, finally, to take a break without needing to check in on us." And it had never occurred to me that my good intention of, keeping up on work and keeping things moving showed up to my team as, I don't trust you enough to step away. And that insight, that discovery led to some powerful conversations of, hey, I was gone for this period of time and you did great. What else do you feel that you're in a position to own? What else do you see that I'm doing that you could be doing or that you're ready to do? And we identified a series of tasks and meetings and things that they were ready to own for their own development. And it was a pivotal moment for me as a leader. I mean, it really shifted how I thought about what the message of ownership sends to your employees about trust. And so in organizations right now, what great leaders are doing is stepping back to evaluate, what are the outcomes I'm expecting my employees to deliver? And then revisiting the line on who is going to own what. And leaders that are divesting right now, not as a tool to get out of making difficult decisions or doing work, but leaders who are saying, I trust, this person who's an emerging leader or who's ready to take on more to do this, that pairs it with an explicit conversation to that end, are actually building trust right now.
What you just told me it sounds so familiar. In my day-to-day job, I work a lot with small entrepreneurs. So they have a small team that they started on their own, and now they're managing their team. And what you see is that they work a lot of hours during the day, and employees come in their office and they ask questions and for help, and they answer and they help. And what you just see is just a lot of micromanagement, right? So they don't let go. And the thing is that what they feel is that they really are helping these people, and these people need their help. So they feel, like you just described, that you were doing a good thing. And once you let go, and they also realize that there is trust now, and I can do this. So they have to figure things out and find out that they really can do this without going back to the manager and asking these questions. How do I need to do this? Or how I need to do that? And do I need an okay for this? Or do I need to do this? So that just described what I encounter a lot. So I can see how difficult it is when you do that online. Final question, because I like what you write. I like what you talk about in your book. And I think the easiest thing for people to do is just to buy the book so that you can learn about how you could use this and implement it in your day-to-day job as a manager, but also as an employee, how you can do it in your own office, at home, what you can improve there. But part of it was, in this last section, was about listening. For me, that's a really important topic, because I think listening is, okay, I will not talk about it. I want you to talk about it. So how do you improve listening now with this media that we are zooming in today, that Zoom is the media now?
The three most powerful words in leadership: I hear you. You don't have to be able to solve every problem that an employee shares with you. There is something so powerful about feeling heard. We all have those experiences, right? You're stuck, you're having a frustrating day, you don't see a path forward, and you're sharing that with someone, and they acknowledge you in a way that you feel heard, right? They might not solve your problem. And that kind of connection right now, and actually using those words, really critical. And the way that you got feedback from your employees in the past, if you haven't taken time to revisit it, now's the time. Because over communication is just communication when you're in a distributed work environment. So if you asked, and maybe you did skip level meetings or whatever that looks like for you, and used to do them once every other month, revisit the cadence. Also revisit what's on the agenda. You might need to ask some different questions to discover some of the complexity of what your employees are managing through that wasn't there before, and also what they see and have as ideas for a path forward to solve for some of these challenges we're all facing right now.
One thing I'm not sure of, I couldn't find it. Do you have a team that works for you?
I have the wonderful fortune of working with a matrix team, of thought leaders who are distributed throughout the organization. So I get to work with lots of different teams. So I'm in the team of teams mode.
Right, but are there people reporting to
No
you?
direct reports at this present moment.
No, no. I was just wondering, because I would just ask an ongoing question on that part. Anyway, thank you very much, Karen, for giving your insights and ideas about all these difficult topics right now, which I think will going to last for a long time, whatever the situation is going to turn out, in a good way. Like in the book, you describe people were suddenly more efficient, happier, less travel, more time with their kids. There's so many advantages of this new situation that we can use, and think about how can we do that once this COVID situation is gone. So that's what I like about what you're talking about. Thank you very much for sharing that with us.
Thank you. Great to be here, and be well.